So now that means Shannon's probably watching. I have to watch myself. So I'm not going to start it too somber or anything. I had a great childhood. I was born, so I had a great childhood. I had 2 parents in the home at that time. I had 2 brothers, and we had a roof over our head. Well, near around 8 or 9, I started to notice a difference in my thought process. On the smallest of inconveniences, I would go to extreme measures. And that would often entail, as kids do, I'd put a bag on my head or something because I was mad and be upside down for 10 minutes, 20 minutes to think, hey, maybe people are going to feel bad if I do this to myself. And so I knew something was wrong up there. Well, around 9 or 10 is when my parents would fight a little bit, would fight in the house a bit. And just remember, I was best friends with my mom at that time. And if anyone knows the Oxygen Channel or Hallmark, we watched that quite a bit. I was 9 years old watching Oxygen Channel. My dad and brothers let me hear it, but I didn't care. Hot chocolate and Christmas movies. So had a really close bond with my mom. And so they started to fight a bit, and she'd kind of head to Louisiana here and there. And so I'd see my best friend for one day, and then I wouldn't the next day, or maybe a month or something. And so then they ended up, we got a little bit of time, so they ended up divorcing, and then she had moved to Louisiana. So I don't blame her. Louisiana's a great place. But my dad would then have to stay there. In 2008, if any of you know 2008, we still had a roof over our head, but we were having Del Taco every night. They had 49-cent tacos. It was the best thing ever. I wish we had that now. Now it's like $4 a taco. You go to Dalen's Palateria, it's so good, but it's like $5 a taco. It's worth it. It's worth it. So out of there, then, I just kind of dealt between having a best friend and not. And then when she finally moved, I knew probably wasn't going to see my best friend anymore. And that was not an easy thing to go to. And I don't want to be a product of divorce or anything, but kind of was. And so let me go through there. Yep. And so I had hospital issues at this time too, and I didn't even know what I was going through, but my dad was spending money and tons of money at that time, a time when we didn't have much money to spend. And so I had to go to hospital visits, and remember this one time my mom had officially left at this point, and I had to go to the hospital the next day for some scans, so I had to be up all night. And I'll always remember this one thing of my dad. Something a dad doesn't normally do, give you Mountain Dew at 10 p.m. So you stay up throughout the night. So he got me Mountain Dew and my favorite video game. And so whenever I go to the hospital visit, I had to fall asleep right away. So I had to stay up all night. Best memory in something so bad, that a father can still love you and give you help like that when you most need it. And so it reminds me a lot of what God can do for us. When we most need it, He is always there. And so eventually, through the divorce and stuff, sports helped me. I had brothers that got me through. You don't have 3 boys and go through a divorce and not have one angsty teenager. I was the angsty teenager, skateboarding, Linkin Park, all of the hard metal that you can listen to. I wouldn't call Linkin Park hard metal, but harder metal than Linkin Park. And so I would still be going through it. I'd still have my struggles personally and internally. I didn't know what I was here for. So I was just so upset at who I was as a person. And I don't think any kid should ever feel like that. It makes me cry when Anna's mad at a game. It's like, you're better than that. It's something so small. And once I got through all of that, we had moved to Lamar. And after the divorce, we had moved to Lamar, and I got to see my grandma and my grandpa and my family there, because we had a lot of family here. And I got really close to my grandpa. That was my buddy, my best friend also. So after losing my first best friend, I was really hesitant on losing my second. Well, it was, say, 12 years old. 12 years old, my dad got laid off from his job. So we had to move in to my grandma and grandpa's house. My dad, with 3 boys, having to move in back to his parents' house is not a good feel. And so it was there that we got to spend the most of the time with our grandparents. And I got to be really close to my grandpa. It was one morning I was supposed to go to about 7th grade, and I had a dentist appointment or something, and my grandpa was going to take me. And he was sitting there on the couch, and as we were about to go, my grandma decides to take me out of nowhere. As we were passing the bridge, I remember looking at the time, about 9:10, 9:15, going over the bridge on Willow Valley there. And that is actually the time that he got his stroke, while he was sitting on the couch. I was fortunately enough to say, I love you, have a great day, and I'll see you soon. When I got to school from the dentist appointment, it was his Sailors, really good friends with our family. Mr. Sailors told me everything what had happened, that he had been rushed to the hospital, and I remember they gave me BJ's while I was there so I could eat, distract myself from what was happening, and obviously I don't eat enough to distract myself. That might be something that could help me. And so after the harsh news that I got, we had a game in Rocky Ford that day. I wanted to go see my grandpa. I don't know if I wanted to see him in that setting, that look of him, because I remembered what I knew of him. Went to the game in Rocky Ford and looked behind me about mid-game, still going through it, just praying, wanting him to be okay. And about mid-game, I look in the back, and my entire family shows up from the hospital with, just say they weren't having smiles. They weren't big smiles on their faces, and I had known I got to say goodbye to my grandpa, but I didn't get to see him one last time, the time that I wanted, my control. In the end, though, I got to see him when he was happy, when he gave me a big smile, and I got to hug him. When they saw him in the hospital, he wasn't in the same mindset that I got to see him at. So I remember him now as my buddy. I was blessed enough to see him one last time. But knowing that a second best friend left my life, it was tough to want anyone to be into my life or be close to anybody, and I pushed everyone away the second I could. My mental health was consistently slipping, and I always felt this hole in my heart, this yearning for something more than myself. And I got out of there, got through high school, and didn't think anything of it. I felt fine. Senior year, though, is when it picked up like crazy. I don't know what had happened, what changed, and I was thinking suicidal thoughts every day. I was wanting to hurt myself every day. I felt like this world would be happier without me in it, not caring about who actually loves me in this world. When you're in those low parts, you're never thinking that. Everyone always thinks just snap out of it, but you're deep in a hole with no shovel, or what feels like you got no shovel. So got through that senior year, I slipped and got into a little skirmish with my stepmother at that time, squabble, and I was sent to Louisiana to live with my mom there. And in a way, I was happy, but I was also kind of sad that it came to that. And my dad, he didn't know, bless his heart, he didn't know how to help me. And he's done everything he can to try to help me. I'm saying I used to wear glasses when I was 9 years old, 10 years old, and then just randomly one day stopped. But he paid for the stigmatism. He paid for all of that, everything I could need, and I was still not happy. So he said, no, I'm done. Sent me to Louisiana, and it was there that, I'll just say I was the only white friend I had. I was the only one in the group. We were playing basketball, we were doing fun things, but then we were also doing not godly things. We weren't going to church. None of my friends were going to church. They would be going to parties, so I would be going to parties. And it was there that I was really losing myself, even more than I was here. I wasn't going with the right people. I wasn't asking God to put the right people in my path. And you have to ask God for things. Prayer is a good thing. At a young age, I did not know prayer was a good thing. Then whenever you grow up and you start to read the Bible, and in John 14:13, ask in God's name, Jesus will grant it, for it glorifies God. That was huge. That shows you have to pray continually, even with the small things. After Louisiana and issues there, I had to get ready, which is actually great. I got to go to McPherson to play football the next year. And so it was there I got the best practice of my life because the people I was around were really good at sports. I'll just say that. So whenever I got to McPherson, I had still been in the same lifestyle I wasn't supposed to be in. I was still partying, maybe a little too much, and for such a small college, I was still doing this stuff. It was not making me happy, and I had a panic attack there, a couple of panic attacks there, and a little manic. To put it into perspective, I dyed my hair blue. It was blue. It wasn't supposed to be blue. It was supposed to be silver. I then went to practice that next day, thought I got it all out, went to wipe my brow with my white shirt, and it's blue. On the entire shirt is blue. So I got called Smurf the remainder of that season. Wonder why. I always wondered why. So I knew something wasn't still right. I was going through impulsivities. I was not thinking correctly. I was pretty much alone finally for the first time, and, well, not for the first time, but still doing bad stuff. But the main part in it all is I wasn't reading, and I wasn't actively searching for God. After a football game, I get a call from Destiny, who I had been dating for about a year or two at this time, and it was about her dad. So my testimony is sort of a testimony in a testimony, but with another testimony. Testimonyception, if you've ever seen that. And I get the call that he got into his accident. Well, after the game, I told my coach I got an emergency, and I took off from McPherson to Lamar that night, got there at like 2 a.m. or something. And of course, I couldn't go over there at that time, so I don't know why I showed up so early. But after that, we had then went to the hospital. And what I always remember, what's so strong for me, why I wanted to do this is, or have a testimony in a testimony, is the first thing I saw when I got there was Monica praying. Never once thinking God wasn't going to have him or heal him. She never lost faith. She was praying, crying, but praying. And that's huge to me. She was still asking God for help, not me. If one little slight inconvenience happens, I'm over here yelling at God for some reason. They got my order wrong at McDonald's, and I'm yelling at God, why me? Why me? I catch the same red light on Cedar, and I'm thinking, why me? And she goes through one of the most traumatic incidences and never wavers, never feels like God can't do big things. And so we had gone there multiple times, and another part of it was seeing how many people were willing to help their family out, willing to help them out by getting to go see them, giving them gas money, giving them money for food, giving them anything they could to get to there. And she almost couldn't accept any of it. She's a good woman, I'll just say that. Great woman. Love my in-laws. And so it was still the continual prayer that she had of never losing faith, and the good Lord healed him. It was powerful for me. I saw what can happen when you stick to prayer, and you stick to works, and you stick to faith. So you can't have works without faith, can't have faith without works, right? And seeing her happy as ever, knowing a prayer was answered. I was happy. I was more than happy. I'm glad that I didn't cry during this, because when I wrote it, I cried. And so, at full faith, he would be healed. And everyone always loves to say Christians will try to force Christianity on you. We'll try to push it on you, and they never did that. They knew what their faith was, but they never forced me to believe that, to date Destiny, to even know her. That's something I should do now, but never forced into believing the word. And at that point, I kind of wanted to be a bit of an atheist. I'm not going to have pride with that. I wanted to stray away further from the Lord than ever. And being there brought me closer to the Lord. Always being around Monica brought me closer to the Lord. We would go to the hospital, and on these 2-hour, 3-hour trips all the time, we would talk about the Lord. That was the best time ever, because I got to know her, I got to know the Lord. Got to stone two birds at once. That's the saying. Not to be mistaken. And then, so after McPherson moved to Greeley, because I had injured my wrist, broke it, like 3 or 4 different places. I would love to say in a game, but it was in a practice, which makes it pretty tough to be happy about that. And then after school and stuff, after sports, I realized I didn't really want to be there for school. Don't go to a college for sports. I'll just say that. Sports aren't forever. You need the education. Hindsight's always 20/20, and for me, it's always. After McPherson, though, moved to Greeley, stopped praying, reading the Bible altogether, and traded all of that. This is where it gets worse. I traded all of that for drugs and partying. So I'd take 1 step forward with God. I'd take 5 steps forward, but then 10 steps back. And I'd be right back in the same awful place I was in before, that I'd been not wanting to be alive, unalive myself, or how it's said now. And I would still have those suicidal thoughts every day, and knew something was up, and I had been trying meds from probably middle school, middle school. Never really helped. Never did what it should have done. So still something was missing. I had all these things to help me out, and something was still missing. A support system. I had a support system. Something was still missing. Tried different ones and tried different jobs to no avail. Maybe I'm not finding my right purpose. Maybe my purpose is somewhere else in this job. I have a resume that for a while I couldn't get hired because I realized my resume looked fake. It was a dishwasher, plumber, mechanic, metal shop worker, landscaping, server, host. None of that looked real. But I tried different ones to maybe see if that helped. I was still not doing good and still partying and just super depressed every day. Night times were always the worst. Well, to kind of counteract that, I felt if I got drunk during the day, I would be better. Night times wouldn't be so bad. If only I knew what was going to happen. About midday, on a weekday too, goes to show how bad my life was. I got drunk and I walked 3 miles. Well, this was a different one. Sorry. I got drunk one midday and I had this whole manic episode. This was after, actually. No, so this was at night. Yeah, so it was one at night. Went into a manic episode at night. I was on the phone with Destiny, actually, at this moment, and I just remember I put the phone down and I left. And I had walked 3 miles at midnight in Greeley. Don't know where I was going. I knew I wanted to harm myself, and I was barefoot, and it was about 30 degrees out. So obviously I wasn't thinking. My head wasn't in the right place. No one does that fashion choice for a reason. So I was in shorts and barefoot at midnight, which to a cop, that probably doesn't look the best. Something is going on mentally up there. And he pulled me to the side, or he stopped by me. I see these lights come on and stops me, gets out, and I start to come to. I start to realize kind of where I am. I look up and I see I'm not at home. I'm not even close to my home. And this guy asked me how it's going. Remember, I'm saying, not doing well, my mind isn't well. He hands me a behavioral card. What's it called? The North Range in Greeley. Hands me a card for that, and for me to go check it out and see how it is. When he hands me his cop card, or whatever, the business card, said Officer Kevin. That would be my dad's name. Immediately, my thoughts flash back into my head of what am I doing? I wanted to harm myself out here and leave all these people behind that actually love me. So it was eye-opening for me just off seeing a first name. And it might be because a lot of middle-aged white men are named Kevin. That could be thrown out there. That's a possibility. I figured that, that was God right there. That was God putting me back in line on something dumb I was going to do that saved me. And so he hands me that and takes me back to my house. I'm thankful because that would have been a long trip back whenever I'm conscious at that moment. Now it's a 3-mile trip and 30 degrees. Whenever you're going blacked out, you don't care. So I ended up trying that place out, and I voluntarily committed myself to a mental hospital. Don't believe that was the right thing to do at the time. It was more of for a reset and get the right prescriptions, the right stuff that I actually needed, because obviously I was being misdiagnosed. So I tried that for a bit. Whenever after the 3 days happened, I didn't feel any different. I didn't feel like my life would change. I still felt unworthy. One of my biggest fears in life is being inadequate. Not being able to come up to what you could be doing or what your expectations of yourself are and not meeting that. So there's a part in later on that'll be about expectations. So I still was struggling, still not reading, and still going into the same lifestyle. God brought me out of that, and I went right back into it. They brought them out of Egypt, and they went right back into believing, oh no, he's not our God, he's not that, and going into these other idols. So there's nothing new under the sun, pretty much. Ecclesiastes, nothing new under the sun. I'm still doing the same dumb things. Still in a lifestyle, and all my friends were in that same lifestyle, so I knew I wasn't going to grow. I prayed and prayed for a friend in Christ, for someone that can help grow me. And in a month, we went to this new church, and they had this guy there named Nick Cooper, nicest guy you will ever meet. And he brought me to these Bible studies. He brought me to these churches, to helping out in church. This was the friend that I prayed for. And in a month of knowing him, I stopped. I made excuses for myself of why I couldn't go. I still felt like this wasn't right for me. I felt like this lifestyle was all there is. That's all I knew at that point. I didn't know that I could grow even higher than what I thought. So I had this friend, and I stopped going to see him. And I always felt short. I felt short to the glory of God, as we all do sometimes. And so I fell with responding and attending and continued another bad lifestyle. And I was at the house, and I was living with my brother and 2 friends at this time. So obviously they weren't great into Christ as well. They weren't learning, they weren't reading, they weren't wanting to. So I'd either go hang out with my friends that didn't care, or I'd be at home with my brother and his friends that didn't care. I had no role model in Christ, and every time I got one, I pushed him away. I got drunk this midday. This was the midday that I got drunk, and I had a pill bottle in the bathroom of pills I should have been taking that I wasn't. So it was about 30, 45 around there. And in all of this anger and this manic episode, I thought for a second, my life, everyone else's life would be easier without me in it. So I basically, all the ones I should have been taking for those days, I took at one time. It's not how that works. You can't it just gets better after that. You can't be off of it for 30 days and then take the 30 and you're just healed. So it started to get slow for me in the bathroom, and I sat down, and about 5 minutes go by of just accepting. And that acceptance was honestly scary. It was something I don't want anybody to ever have to go through, of feeling like this is easier than dealing with your own emotions, dealing with your headspace, or finding something in life. I was 22, already wanting to end it. I'm going to say a little bit of laziness right there. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to continue. About 5 minutes in, I get these lights flashing throughout my head, and it's like your life, but it's everybody that I knew I would hurt by this decision. Everyone I could hurt. Everyone that actually loved me and supported me through everything. My dad with unconditional love. I was not a good kid. I stole crayons. I threw lunch at the milk at the lunch lady, not lunch at the milk lady. That was a different time. But I was not a great kid, and I still had these people that wanted me to live, that wanted the best for me. And in that moment, it wasn't like a loud, booming voice or anything massive like that. It was a stern, direct, swift voice that was repetitive, that said, "Get up." Just get up. Wasn't anything extra with it. Just get up. So I got up. I got out of the bathroom. No one knew I was doing this. My brother would have walked in on me dead in the bathroom. And I got up and walked out to my car, got in my car, and drove the 7-8 blocks to the North Range that the officer gave me a card for. So I still had that in my wallet, and I still had been going there. Drove there, don't know how I got there. There's driving impaired, then there's driving on about to die. And I got there, I remember I told them what I had done, the stupid thing I had done. And they got the ambulance there, and that was kind of what made me more mad, is you don't got insurance and you get an ambulance ride. It goes up there. I should have walked to the hospital. That might have been cheaper, but I came to in the hospital bed there, finally woke up, and everything was lethargic, was super slow. And in my head, I can't believe I even did that. I should have just been taking them one a day, not 30 at the last bit. And so got out of that. Well, when you do that, you don't get a voluntary stay. You get something called an involuntary stay. So I had no choice but to spend 3 days there. Not the proudest one with that, but I knew something was still going on and I had to fix myself. But that's not how the world... You don't fix yourself. You go to God and He will fix you. That's later, but... So whenever I got out of there, I felt like I was starting to be a little bit better in there. It was a reset. But I got to see my brother there. And I was still more set on hurting myself that I pushed him away. The one person that wanted to come see me, the one person that did come to see me, all the words I said to him, if I could take that back, if I could go back in time, there's a lot of cool things I would do, but that would be one that I would do. And I would take back everything I said to the one brother just trying to talk to me. I was still sad. I was still frustrated. Got out of that three-day place, and I could tell that something had to change. I still had to get right with God. So whenever I got out, Desti and she recommended going to this church there that was right by where I used to live. Supposed to be a really good one. And so we went. So on 2 Corinthians 6:14, where it says to be equally yoked, she was stable. No matter where she was at or what she was going through, she takes that piece from her mom and her dad. Whatever they're going through, she's stable. She's right with the Lord. So she suggested 2 Corinthians 6:14, being equally yoked together. That she can't be on this side and I'm down here doing these awful things and we're still right for each other. And so started to go to church there. And in Greeley, they had this place called Christ community, verb, action, verb, and then noun. And so went there, and they had Rocky and the Queen, best singers. If you get a chance to listen to them, they went to Tennessee, I believe, but they were amazing. And it was there that we started to go to church every Sunday. We'd start to read. I'd start to actually want to learn more from the Lord because I was missing something, and I had tried 500 other things that weren't working. And God kept knocking on the door, and I kept closing it. So I finally said to myself, no, we are going to pursue this. We are going to try to get right with the Lord. How everyone says get right with the Lord, I tried. And about 2 years go by, and we get married. I can start to see, before I didn't see a future, I didn't care about a future. I didn't want to live, so I didn't care about the next day. Well, I started to see a future, so then we got married. And 9 months go by, we then have Anna. And once you have, that was my eye-opener, once you have a daughter or a son or a kid, anybody that you get to be a father of, it changes your mind on who God is to you. Because I see God as this unconditional love. And I got to give that to my daughter, unconditional love. If God can do that for me, I can do that for Anna. And of course, I'm blessed enough to have a daughter that prays for me, 4 years old and prays before every meal, gets mad at me if I don't pray, or is up here dancing for the Lord. And it's a blessing to me. Terrifies me a bit when she says we need to pray for Daddy, but I'm glad she's doing it. And so I prayed a lot more in these past. It might be because I now have a child that you pray more. It's out of your control. So that's something that God can do. I can't do everything. That's something God can do. And so knowing that God is with her, Jesus is in her heart, and telling her that every day is something I have to tell myself as well. That Jesus is in my heart, that I am with Jesus. He is with me. And that I don't need to feel this ashamed feeling of never feeling worthy. Of why, if God can do that, if He can go on the cross for us, and I feel like I'm not worthy, does that make Him worthy? Does that make what He did just? I am worthy by what He did on the cross. All of my sins, and at that point I had asked for forgiveness. I didn't ask for much forgiveness before then because I couldn't forgive myself. So then once I fully forgave myself, asked God for that forgiveness, it was a change. I love praying. And in all of this, I've had dreams of going down into hell. I've had awful times where I've woken up with 3 scratch marks on my back that go away by noon. I remember this one that was about the worst it can get. I was in this dark abyss or whatever, and there's a line behind me of people, and there's a 50-foot thing, grotesque monster or whatever, branding me on the chest. The sizzle and the smell of my flesh burning pretty much. It was so vivid. I woke up sweating. I was scared. And I knew at that point it had to change. That was a huge turning point and what pushed me to want to see the Lord. Because you see that, you see the real part of evil, you know the real part of good has to be there. And it has to be much better than whatever that was. There's no branding going on up in heaven. And through all that praying, through all that asking God to change my life and to give me happiness, brought my mom back from Louisiana. And remember going to pick her up. She ran out of gas by Springfield, and about 6 a.m. in the morning, I had to drive up to Springfield and bring her a little gas can and then follow her on the whole way back. But unloaded that U-Haul, and not a lot of people enjoy moving. But when you get to unload a U-Haul for someone you have been wanting to see for so bad, no better feeling than that. I would do that every time. And so with all of these struggles in my life and these battles that I've had to go through, every day is still a battle, but all of these that I have to go through, if I didn't have God first, if I didn't put Jesus first before all of this, I would either be, I'm going to be straight up, I would either be dead or an atheist. which kind of feel like the same thing. I don't feel like I would ever have that eternal life. I'm a skinny guy, so the food that God can give me would be pretty nice. That's all I'm saying. So I guess I kind of went a little bit over, but there was a bit onto it. And so what I'm trying to say is, ask God, pray to God for what you want your life to be. And His will is different from your will, I'll say that, so stop trying to control how your life should be. Ask God, give God the control, and let Him transform your life. Once you give Him that control, don't try to nitpick certain things that you need to control. When we're out there herding cattle, Shannon's praying before everything. I know because cattle can be pretty tough, but he's praying before everything we do out there. And so I had prayed for God to put the right people in my path. And thanks, yep. Yeah, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways. So his day might be different from what you envision. And so what changed mine was the expectations of it. If I'm expecting it to go a certain way and it doesn't, I'm getting mad. If I put the control into God's hands and say, do what you must, or do what you want with this situation, and I go through it, I'm not mad. That is God's control of it. So if I give Him that control, I'm not going to try to take it back at the earliest convenience of whatever I'm trying to go through. I gave Him that control, I give Him it. My life is not my life, it is God's life in His hands. And so, I started asking why I'm here, the purpose, and I kept getting, youth pastor, I kept getting teacher, I kept getting help in the church, however you can. And I didn't listen, I didn't want to. And I kept asking for the right people in my life, and I got them, and I pushed them away. Well, now I have accepted them. And so I have Destiny, who has brought me closer to God. I have Monica and her dad that have brought me closer to God. And then I have Shannon. I wanted a job where I could be right with the Lord. I work for a pastor. So now I can't cuss. I can't be mad. I can't do any of that. I have to be right with the Lord. And we get to pray every day. We get to talk every day about God. And when I'm out there doing fence by myself and that sunset's going down, I'll just sit down and pray. Because that is the best time to talk to God. No distractions. Your ears are open. And so I thank God for where I'm at now. It may not be where I thought I would be, but I know it's where I'm happiest. So I get to be up here, talk about my life, share the great news of the Lord, and have a beautiful family, a daughter, and a home over my head. I have blessings that I didn't see back then. And I thank the Lord for that. So I have more scripture, but I also didn't know how long this would go. So there's scripture. So thank you. Thank you. Also, may or may not have wrote that on a Hello Kitty book. Live with girls, that's what happens. Probably do one more song. One more song.